ladies and gentlemen, how we doing today? If you are a returning listener, welcome back to another episode of Inside the Inventory podcast. You know how we do things around here, so no need for me to explain too much. Now, if you happen to be a first-time listener on the show, thank you for tuning in to a wonderful experience. My name is Justice Marshawn. I am your host, and I'm the creator and founder of Inside the Inventory podcast. So with that being said, feel free to just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. So before I kick off today's show, I want to say two things. One, this being the premiere episode of Inside the Inventory podcast. Can we give it just one time? Can we give it up? This has been something that has had a lot of intention and fine detailing and just meticulous effort behind the scenes, and I appreciate everyone that has had their hands in this big pot of podcast gumbo for it to be brought to life in this way. I really appreciate that, and I'm even more excited to share this experience with you guys here as well. The second thing I want to say is, for those of you who don't know Inside the Inventory podcast or just aren't familiar, I want to go ahead and lay some foreground for you guys. So I created this platform about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, and I didn't necessarily know where it would lead, but I knew rather the intention behind it and what I wanted it to be. I wanted this to be a platform, and not even just a platform, but a place where people of all walks of life, all denominations, all ethnic and cultural backgrounds, black, white, blue, green, male, female, whatever you identify as, to be able to come to this place and feel welcome and feel like they, are heard through perspectives and a lens of my own. And I try my hard to express my sentiment in commonplace areas that we all go through in life. And so Inside the Inventory podcast is really just that. It's a compilation of stories, past experiences, trials, tribulations, bright spots, highs, lows, everything in between, journeys, hardship, everything. And I wanted to create this for people like you, for listeners like you who understand what it's like to wake up every day, to grind, to have times where you're stagnant, times where you're just, you're not happy with where you're at in life, times where you are uncomfortable, times where you feel like an outsider, every single thing and everything in between. And to be able to share this with you guys is just an awesome moment. So with that being said, you guys know why I'm here. Let's go ahead and jump into the show. So man, I can't believe, it's crazy how time really does fly. I think if you would have told me that I would be sitting here today with all of you guys, behind this microphone, behind this camera, and podcasting, I would be like, bro, there's absolutely no way. There's no way I would have believed you, because from when I was younger, I always knew that I had some sort of purpose, some sense of purpose, but I didn't know, what it meant to be extraordinary, not by any means. I'm a kid who comes from the inner city, from Tacoma, Washington. I mean, and typical, low income just environment and household. I grew up on welfare and food stamps, and I was that kid who every weekend, I had to walk to Salvation Armies and food banks to get, a box of apples and potatoes and bread and eggs and cans of green beans and tomato sauce, and walk it back to, a family of 7 or 8 people. Like, that was my life. And and it's just crazy, that real time reflection, and just being that kid that even walked to the dollar store, and I got $1.78 in my pocket, and I need to buy 2 dozen small candles because electricity just went off, and I'm trying to bargain with the cashier lady, like, hey, I'm 20 something cents short, can I have this? I need it for my family, please. And me walking out of there feeling like I'm on top of the world, like, man, I just did this, and and just all those things. And um I felt like the epitome of my childhood and just early life was about how to survive and not how to live. It's crazy because years later I really find myself in this interesting place in life, where I'm absorbing all of the life lessons that God has given me, and I'm able to, in real time, gather and recollect all of my stories, experiences, memories from life early on. And even the ones that I feel like have been buried in the deepest parts of my subconscious for as long as I can remember are now starting to resurface in later life. And it's interesting because as humans, our life journey is essentially efforts to locate every single missing piece to our own puzzle. I feel like that's what life is about, is just piecing it all together somehow. And, you know, some pieces we've had in our possession almost the entire time, and we just fail to realize it. And, other pieces require us to go out into the world and embark on a crazy, wild roller coaster like journey of self discovery to complete that quest. I am comprised of Midwestern roots, and Pacific Northwestern roots, kind of all mixed into one, but both gave me that inner city mentality. I spent a lot of life in Flint, Michigan, and from there, Tacoma and Seattle, Washington. My immediate family is from both parts, from both lands, and I think living in both places, the common theme and where they're so synonymous is that it was hard to, one, physically get outside of the city limits, and with that, it was hard to see outside of the city limits, I would say. I watched a place that sucked everybody in, my peers, people close to me, people that I knew. I watched these places literally gravity suck these people in and not offer a way out. And, it was hard, especially then, seeing people with such high trajectories in life become a product of the place that we called home. And even in all of that, though, I still always felt like I just always felt like, man, I have this purpose. I have something that God has called me to do. I have no idea what it is, so do not ask me at the time, of course. But nonetheless, it was just like, even watching people die, people face incarceration, and all these things externally, these situations happening around me, is just like, yet somehow I'm still intact. And for that, again, I have to truly, truly thank God that I'm even sitting in the seat, or that I'm even sitting in the seat, because it's a blessing. And it's a luxury, to come from places of hardship and to come from such an incredible disposition and find light on the other side. Growing up was interesting. I think over time, as I, went through grade school and even with the transitioning back and forth between two completely different places, I just slowly started to become sure about, what my journey was shaping out to be. I think it really hit home for me when I graduated high school. Shouts out to my Abe's, man. Lincoln High School, man. Abe for life. But when I graduated high school, I think that's when my journey truly, truly began in terms of accepting my individuality and being in control of my own destiny. And so what ended up happening is, I graduate, and at the time I'm in athletics, I'm playing basketball, and I'm doing all these things. And it's just like, people don't look at you in a certain lens until you achieve a milestone. So graduating high school was like a big deal. It's like, okay, he's serious about whatever it is that he's trying to do. And, people can see that. And so what ended up happening is I actually accepted a full ride basketball scholarship to a school in Arizona, a place I had never been before prior, didn't know anything about. And I know what some of you guys are thinking. Like back then, I don't feel like Arizona was as cool. It's just like, and especially for the people who lived, on the West Coast of the Midwest, they're just like, Arizona, that's so random. Like, you don't even know nothing about AZ. But I was just like, I didn't even care at this point. I just wanted to get up out of there. I was like, look, it's twos. I don't know nothing about nothing, but it's time to go. And that opportunity provided more clarity as the day got closer. And when I actually looked at it for what it was, I didn't care about the location. I didn't care about the logistics. I cared about the fact that it was an opportunity to place myself in a completely brand new environment and to be able to blossom and grow from there. And if anything, I was just like, man, I'm so hyped to get up out the city and just to be on my own, completely on my own, and learn so much. And for me, again, it was just like the idea of doing this was such a, it felt like a fantasy. I had never traveled on my own, didn't have any money to travel. I went to some states because of basketball, but again, the exposure piece was so exciting to me because I just have such a curious mind. And so much so that, the fine details of making this transition, it really was like vaguely important to me. I was just like, again, I'm gone. Give me my plane ticket. I'm gonna make it happen from there. And so I did it. I did it in blind faith. And I just remember it was so crazy. I remember boarding the plane to Tucson, Arizona, and I think I had no more than like four physical possessions. It was crazy. You'd have thought I was homeless walking through the airport for real. I had a suitcase, I had a duffel bag, I had a backpack, and I had a basketball. And I had some hope that makes five. We'll take it. And it was so crazy because, and you guys will understand what I mean here, of like when you have just those like moments in time. And the thing I remember most was getting there, and this sticks with me forever. This is a memory and a moment that has stuck with me forever, and it always will. Flying in and the descent, I think the plane ride couldn't have been no more than 3.5, 4 hours, between 3.5 and 4 hours. And I just remember we were on our descent. I think we had like 25 minutes or something like that left, and I just remember looking out the window. I was trying to sleep because I was a little bit anxious. I was a little bit nervous, especially being on my own, flying and all that stuff. And I was just like, man, I just want to sleep, get some shut eye. Let me shut this window. And the captain, he goes onto the intercom, and he's just like, hey, we're getting ready to land. Everybody prepare for landing. And I'm like, okay, yes, finally, I can get off this plane, and I can just, I finally, like, the anticipation was literally killing me. It was so bad. But I remember opening up the window, and I saw what appeared to be this lavender strawberry sunset. And when I tell you guys, it was one of the most mesmerizing, picturesque, movie like things that I've ever seen in my life. It truly was. And I was just like, oh, this is it. We here. Like if I get this every night or every day, oh, we here. No questions asked. And in that moment for me, that was like the confirmation that I needed as a young kid because when you're young, you rely on mentorship and parental guidance and all of these people to make decisions for you. And what happens is, when it's time to make decisions on your own, you're just like, I don't even know what I'm doing. And let alone, I don't even know if what I'm doing is the right thing to do. But it was that moment that really gave me a lot of fortitude and confirmation. And I'll never forget that. And I told to myself, again, just being this young kid, I was just like, man, no matter what happens, like no matter what happens, I did this. I did this on my own too, my own 10 toes, and I followed it through, and no one can ever take that from me. No one. Before completing a course, before scoring a basket, I achieved something so monumental, and it was I stepped outside of my comfort zone and I took a leap of faith. And that's what today's episode is the first step outside of your comfort zone. I would say the college experience was interesting. I felt like it looking back at it, it was a staple in my life because I come from a very small list of people to pursue post secondary education, and it was scary because I was just like I literally took that whole experience and I just guessed. Like college was just at least the first 2 years. I started to figure it out, but the first 2 years was just a big fat guess, and I think that's what made it so valuable in turn. On the reflection pieces, a lot of growth, a lot of learning curves. We all have been to college and a lot of trial and error, but I think it was just the overall satisfaction. I was just like, even for times that I'm not doing my best or just if there's room for growth in this area, I'm still doing it. I'm still here. And I think that something that always kept me afloat was the fact that I was in a brand new space, completely on my own, making real time, adult like, or however close I could get to adult like decisions on my own. And I just was funneling and fueling myself with new perspectives and new possibilities. And I think it's something about being in an unfamiliar environment that really allows you to like explore your individuality and be like, okay, who am I trying to be? Like, what's my feng shui? And what kind of sauce am I about to, like, who am I? And that was the coolest part. And what it allowed me to do is, man, I met so many people over the course of my life of just traveling and being in new and unfamiliar places and really being exposed and having to adjust and acclimate and open up to these places, people, and things. And I've met amazing people. I've established some of the most organic and invaluable relationships that to this very day I still hold with those people. And I think the college experience too just made me realize that like the small things in life, like being frugal is cool. Like, you guys see the accessories or whatever, but do not be fooled. I am I'm a cheap son of a gun, that's for sure. And I think most importantly, like just it made me realize that doing not only doing God's will in that, but doing what makes you truly happy is all that matters. It's all that matters. Despite popular opinion, external, outside opinion, or shoot, any opinion at all. And, fast forward 7 years later, or just years later, that leap of faith has led me here. And that's why I wanted to kick off this brand new one more time, like give it up. That's why I wanted to start off this brand new video series with this particular episode from the Sense of Self chapters, because that journey that I took as a 17, 18-year-old kid, like that's what sparked everything for me. And it jump started, everything that took place after. And that was a true moment in time for me in my life. And it showed me that no matter what, that God is always in control. And from that, I have the freedom and the power and the strength to literally do anything that I put my mind to. I believe that in my whole heart. And it's just crazy because like I never realized it, but it's about wanting something so bad and wanting it so bad then that I was willing to live with any calculated risk just in the hopes that, it was worth it in the end. So, that particular moment in my life was about breaking the cycle. It was definitely about breaking the cycle. I knew what I was up against, but I knew where I came from. So I was like, am I more afraid of the challenge, or am I more afraid of all of the crazy, crazy, crazy things and circumstances and situations that I've already seen as a kid? I'm like, I'm taking this one for 200, please, because there's nothing that I'm gonna go up against, and there's nothing that I'm gonna see that could shell shock me from what I've already been through in my previous life. Um, and so, but it ebbed and flowed. It had a lot of ebb and flow, because even though that part, or that part of my life was about breaking the cycle, I still had a lot of anxiety from leaving my comfort zone and venturing out into a brand new place. And fear sometimes can be very, very crippling. And what happens is, if we don't address that fear, it'll make it impossible to break out of that shell, to step outside of your comfort zone. Because as people, we simply enjoy commonplace. We don't like hardship. We don't like things that are unnatural, uncommon, anything. We want to stick to what we know. We want to stick to our guns. And so, segueing from that, when I realized after it was all said and done, I graduated and all these things, that I wanted to go into podcast and radio, it was the same result. I was just like, I can't do this. I don't have the tools. I don't have the knowledge. I definitely don't have no money. And I was just like, man, I just sit, because I'm like, do you know everything that you've accomplished so far in this life as being a 20-something-year-old kid, everything that you've accomplished? Like, this is cake. This is a cakewalk. And it's because at that time, I had yet to adjust my perspective. I think what it was is my mind was so consumed at the idea and possibility for failure that I was like, I never even gave myself a chance. It was over from the get-go, and I knew it was. And alongside with that is just like, I had to understand also too, and this is what I mean by like certain dispositions, is that, no one before me had ever personally indulged in anything creative, or at least not the space that I wanted to be in. So I was like, not only do I not have the resources, the information, the money to do what I want to do, but I don't have a reference. And that was scary for me, because nobody likes to be a guinea pig. And I knew that I was just like, you know what? When it comes to wanting to pursue this creative passion and get behind this camera and get behind this microphone and share these heartfelt and genuinely handcrafted messages to you, I was just like, I can't let anything discourage me. I've been building this foundation for years, this foundation of courage and triumph and having just that, I've been doing that since I was a kid, and I was just like, why is that any difference with trying something in this creative space? And had I let, a bad mindset and just irrational fear, I wouldn't be sharing these stories with you all today. And so that thinking, that little mustard seed, literally triggered and transpired multiple inspiring life choices that I decided to make on in life. But, in order for me to, again, bring my dreams to life and do all these amazing things, I had to condition myself and fix the way that I've been um, thinking almost my entire life. And not only that, but I had to understand that, again, my love for this creative art, my desire to plant these seeds among people who I know for a fact need to hear this, because I didn't have the luxury to hear this when I was young. And, you know, sometimes it's just bigger than you. That's just what it comes down to. Sometimes it's just bigger than you. So I had to, in so many situations, get out of my own way to be able to benefit the person next to me. I knew that this was a part of my bigger purpose, like being able to give back and share these stories and do all these things. I was like, man, there's somebody out here, man. If they can just pop in their headphones, their AirPods or something, and just tune in for just 2 seconds, man. If I can just give them 2 seconds worth of game, I know I can help them elevate or get through a tough time. Because when it boils down, and what really got me over the hump is just like, I know what it feels to like not have anything. I know what it feels like to want and long for life's most basic necessities and wonder why they aren't there. I know what it feels like to go through things and not have a helping hand. I know what it feels like to be, a kid out on the street with just a backpack and a pair of headphones and nowhere to go. And that's the type of like character and life defining moments that prepare you for your greater purpose. When you do have people, I think that's where you also have to be fully aware, because if you aren't careful, there's so many factors that can impact us negatively as entities, and especially when it comes to stepping outside of our comfort zones. Because from the start, like, don't never mind people, like, we're our own worst critic a lot of times and our own biggest barrier. So when you add in and you allow external factors to get their 2 cents in and have their hands on your situation and your creation, that's when it gets messy. And there's a number of things that can impact us externally, and it's our immediate environment. It's the people groups that we identify with. It's even just the expectations of this crazy world, man. This world's crazy. And what will happen is, ultimately and subconsciously, you will become just conformed to this idea of what your world and your purpose and your life is supposed to be like, and you'll end up abiding by these unspoken rules if you aren't careful. And I think it isn't until we locate and recognize these barriers and replace them with our own unique individuality. For me, I think these barriers were present in a lot of spaces. I think just from being a kid from Tacoma, growing up in that environment, those neighborhoods, uh, replicating and pay close attention here to this one, because I think this is a lot of us, from replicating the lifestyle choices and mannerisms of close family members growing up. That was a huge one. Okay. And even the pressures of just a generation that like makes it look so either way too easily obtainable or completely difficult to achieve our aspirations. And what it comes down to is just like, at some point you're just gonna have to look in the mirror and tune everything out, tune everything out, and think introspectively. Adopt that viewpoint. And I say this is because if you really want to truly understand yourself and truly understand your capabilities, You just got to limit, certain powers and impressions that outside factors have on you. I hear people all the time say, and I didn't think like this when I was young because I didn't have that mindset. But like, I hear kids all the time, kids that I used to teach, kids that I used to mentor back when I was in Washington. There's like, man, I want to be X, Y, and Z. I want to be, a nurse. I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a show spokesman. And I'm like, bro, let's get it. Like, what's up? Like, let's get it. And I love seeing that thought process because these young kids aren't worried about what other people might think about their dreams. They're just like, hey, bro, this is what I want to do. Like, man, what's up? And and that's what the amazing part of having like a sense of life direction and a blueprint can do for you, is because doing that will just, man, you'll double down on yourself so much, and your creativity and your uniqueness will just blossom out of nowhere because you're like, I don't know, who I'm gonna be, 5, 10, whatever years from now, but I know what I want to be and I know what I want to do. And then that will turn into you naturally just defaulting to your own just your own journey, just taking your own lane. And it's scary when you have people in your life who will put you down, and people that try to enter your space with negativity, because what will end up happening is you'll have so many inspiring ideas and things that you want to do, and seeds that you want to plant so badly, but it's just like now those things have been distorted and tainted by someone who never in a million years, y'all, someone who never in a million years could conceptualize and visualize your dreams the way that you do, all because you let them, their 2 cent, their 5 cent thinking override your $1 million intuition. I think once you've mastered that piece, then, take a look around you about the people who add value and positivity to your life. We're shifting the lens from people who are just no good, like, bye, whatever. And now we're like, okay, where my real ones at for real? Like, where my day ones? Where are the people who are really, down for me and really want to help me, push this forward? And I think it's crazy because, like, I didn't have that constructive parental guidance growing up. I had mentors. I had school faculty that would sit in on my parent teacher conference and like act like mom of the day. and I had peer leaders and my affinity brothers. Shout out to my affinity brothers too. They keep me focused and on a narrow path and structured and disciplined. I love my affinity brothers. And it was people like that where I was like, they poured into my cup. Just my nucleus of people who, and a lot of them went through the same hardships and and endured the same struggles as I did. And so seeing people who were dealt the same deck of cards and really helped my desire to be great, because I'm like, if this dude can do it, and I know he didn't come from 2 cents and a bucket to what in, like, I can do it too, and I believe in you, and we're on the string. And having people like that who empower you and who help push you outside of your comfort zone is worth doing it for. And God is worth doing it for always. If you don't have somebody, lean on God. Develop a relationship with Jesus, and I guarantee you everything. The Bible says all things will be added onto you if you seek first the kingdom of God, the kingdom of righteousness. And so if you don't got nobody to do it for, always do it for God. Always do it for a bigger purpose. And I just remember, like, even just when me and my boys were younger, man, like, the money wasn't there, the resources were never there, but it's just like, man, I grew alongside those gentlemen who to this very day have been in my foxhole. And and to all of that, it's just like taking a leap of faith is like one of the hardest things to do in life, especially if it's something you've just never done before. And I get that. I really do. Because, even just breaking out of our own psychological confinement is so difficult. It's so incredibly difficult. And if we add that to like letting people affect us, it can be, again, such a dangerous, place to be in. But I learned quickly that, the company you keep does have a direct correlation on what happens in your world, your ability to just achieve things, your mindset, and just understanding that you're gonna have to have periods of realization. You're gonna have to have periods of removal. There's like a saying that people are re- refine or recycle their friendships after a period of time. You're gonna have to go through all those seasons for sure. You're gonna have to keep churning and spinning the wheel and reinventing the wheel until you get the right people in the same room with you, and until you get the right headspace on your shoulders. And also, I think in closing here, I want to say that, man, it's important to understand that, like, when you're trying things for the first time, whether that be a new food dish, a new hair product, or even a premiere podcast episode series, it's gonna be a little bit awkward. It's gonna be a little bit uncomfortable, but the way we feel about that experience personally should be exclusively up to us to determine, not anyone else. And I think that's the true beauty in just those genuine, raw, organic, untampered experiences, because it's like, I went to Virginia Beach a couple of months ago to visit family, and we actually went down to Virginia Beach, and living here in Phoenix, there's not a large body of water in sight, especially one that isn't man-made. And I just remember, like, being barefoot on the beach and walking up to the shore and like feeling the ice cold water like on my toes for like the first time in so long. And that was, that's what a brand new experience should feel like. It should be, Nirvana-esque. And the gray area that, comes as a package deal with trying new things, it'll go away over time. It will. All you got to do is be curious every day, be enthralled every day, be excited every day. Life is so precious, and life is a gift. And just going into things with a clear mind and a clear perspective, and there's no reason why you shouldn't have success. And to really just, I encourage you all to like step outside of whatever boundaries of normalcy that you have developed for yourself, because who's ever, to say that you'll get this chance again. And just a year and a half, 2 years ago, I knew nothing about podcasting. I knew nothing about mixing, mastering, radio, visual, cinematography, any of those things. But I was just like, I don't come from this background. I don't even know anyone who does, but I just want to try it because it seems cool. I like it. It gives me joy, and it's fun. And I'm just going to try. And I've put together, this body of work for you all to see firsthand that I'm a living testimony of, like, it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what label people put on you. Prove them wrong, and go do it. Even if you fail a million times, keep trying. And that's what I told myself, is just like, no matter how excited I was to begin this process, I don't want to be overzealous, and I just want to come in every day and lay one brick at a time. No matter what people say, no matter what setbacks I have, I just want to lay one brick at a time. And next thing you'll have an entire foundation under your feet. And that, to me, sounds foolproof. I don't know about you. So in closing, the next time that you see someone who has different physical features, if they got, different personal possessions, or or qualities of any sort apart from your own, just remember one thing. They're on a journey, a personal journey, just like you are. Don't worry about the things that you simply cannot control. Don't even let them into your space. Just remember to always be intentional and methodical and mindful and present, especially with yourself. And I'm glad that I got to share a handful of my truths with you all today. And speaking of truths, that's what this opening introduction, the first step outside of your comfort zone, is about. And that's what this whole podcast as a whole is going to be tailored around. Having a platform where I can share these stories and messages and maybe help, some of you find light in your own pathway. And as these stories progress and as I just unravel more of these, of these personal stories, I hope that each of you, find navigation and just even a little bit of clarity in the midst of your own personal circumstances, no matter what you're going through. And so with that being said, I appreciate you all so much for tuning in to the premiere episode of Inside the Inventory podcast, the first step outside of your comfort zone. I'm excited for this journey with you all, and I'll be seeing you on the next one. I'm gone.